Hi Northwood students. We're going to talk about percussion instruments today. So the last two videos we did were on woodwind instruments and brass instruments. Now we're going to talk about percussion. So what is a percussion instrument? So these are instruments that have to be hit or shaken to make the vibrations that turn into sound. In the past videos we've talked about how sound is vibrations, sound waves, that's how we get sound. So on a percussion instrument, it has to be hit or shaken. It can be hit with anything. Technically, anything could be a percussive instrument, including yourself. When you clap, that's percussive sound. When you tap on your legs, snapping, tapping your head. I want you to challenge yourself and see if you can come up with a cool percussive body percussion rhythm. You could stomp your feet and make sounds like that. Tap here. See what the different sounds hitting your body can do. Maybe you can hit it differently. Whatever. See what you can come up with, and create a different rhythm using that. Anything that can be struck and then in turn makes a sound can be a percussion instrument. Just a brief history on percussion instruments because they go way back. They're typically considered the first man-made instrument. The first known, specifically percussion instrument goes back to 6000 BC. There are thousands of different types of percussion instruments that can be found around the world. They've been used as forms of communication in ancient Africa to send signals. In some cultures, they have specific rhythms that are sacred and have spiritual connections. So their percussion instruments go way back and are really important to a lot of cultures. There are two main categories of percussion instruments. There are pitched percussion, so these can play specific notes. So you can actually go through and play a song and change the pitch of the instrument. And then there's unpitched percussion. So these percussion instruments don't play a specific note when hit. So clapping would be unpitched. So let's start with pitched percussion. Some common pitched percussion instruments would be the keyboard instruments. We have the bells, the xylophone, marimba, or glockenspiel, a timpani, boomwhackers, and temple blocks. The keyboard percussions, the barred instruments is what you could call them too, they have bars that are hit with mallets typically, and they're set up just like a piano keyboard. So they go in the same order: C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, F, G, C, D, F, or A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, sorry, A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, F, G. Many of them have the smaller notes on a piano. You have the white keys and the black keys. Many of them also have those as well. They don't all have them, but most of them will have that second layer, so you can do sharps. The longer the bar is, the lower the note it'll play. The shorter the bar is, the higher it'll play. These are because the sound waves they create. So the lower the bar, or the longer the bar is, it's going to create longer sound waves, so it's going to create a lower sound. These bars on the different keyboard instruments can be made out of different materials, and that'll create a different sound, a different timbre, a different feeling when hit. There's typically struck with a mallet. And you can have different types of mallets. You can have yarn mallets, so that's really, it's a stick with the top part that you hit is round, and it has yarn around it. You can have soft rubber, hard rubber, and they'll make the sound be soft or loud or make it ring longer. So a marimba and a xylophone. The main difference between a marimba and a xylophone is the size. A marimba is typically much bigger, has a bigger range of notes it can play. A xylophone is typically smaller and therefore has less notes it can play. They both have resonators, that's these tubes here, that go under the bars, and so they collect the vibrations and help amplify it to make it louder. Typically these are, the bars on these are made out of wood. They can be made out of different types of wood, but typically they're made out of wood. Let's listen to an example of some marimbas and xylophones. These ones right here, these are going to be your xylophones. They're a little bit smaller and they don't necessarily have as many resonator tubes or at all on these ones. These ones back here are bigger. You can see there's 3 kids on this one and only 1 kid on these ones. So this is your marimba back here. These ones are called vibraphones because they have, or metallophones because the bars are metal. And if you watch this one, you'll see that it rises and lowers. There's a pedal. So just like on a piano, if you press the pedal on a piano, it'll make it ring longer. It can do the same thing on there. So watch this one. See if you can see the bars going up and down. So you can see kind of a different examples of each of those. Glockenspiel, or the bells, they're interchangeable. Typically much smaller than a xylophone or a marimba. The bars are made out of metal, and so they're much higher pitched because they're made out of metal and because they're smaller. A bar on a marimba usually goes from here to here. These on a glockenspiel or a bell usually go from about this size to this size, so much smaller, and they're much more high pitched. A timpani is a type of kettle drum, so they call it a kettle drum because if you see this shape, that's the kettle part of it. It's hollow in there, so that makes the kettle shape. That a player will strike the head of the drum, so that's the top part right here, the white part, that's the head of the drum, with a mallet or a stick to create the sound. You see there's pedals down here. The pedal will tighten or loosen the drum head. The tighter the drum head, the higher pitched it's going to sound because it stretches it out, and so the sound waves get faster and closer together. If you want a lower note, you'll loosen the drum head, and it'll have more space to vibrate. It'll make a lower pitch. So generally, you'd have 2 to 3 timpanis being used in a piece of music. You can have more than that, but on average pieces, it would be 2 to 3 timpanis, and you would tune them to your specific note before you started the piece. The bigger the timpani, in general, the lower the pitch is going to be. Boom whackers are plastic tubes that are specific lengths to make different notes, and so they're color-coded. We know all about boom whackers. The shorter the tube, the higher the note. The longer the tube, the lower the note. We have the octavator caps, those black caps, that makes them an octave lower. That's because it changes the way the vibrations go in there. So you can hear they did all-star on boom whackers, and they also used cups as well to create a little bit more percussive sound because anything can be percussion. Tempo blocks are a set of these blocks that are of different sizes, as you can probably guess. The smaller the tempo block, the higher pitched. The lower it is, the lower pitched or the lower note it's going to be. They come in different materials like plastic, wood, and so each type of material is going to change the way it sounds, and they're hit with some sort of mallet. And again, the different types of mallets that you can use will help you, change the timbre of it, make it louder, softer, make it ring longer, different sounds. So now let's go to unpitched percussion. So these are ones that don't play a specific note. So common types would be your snare drum, bass drum, triangle, tambourine, and cymbals. And pretty much anything that you can hit that doesn't make a note would be unpitched percussion. Snapping, clapping, any of that. So the snare drum, so the head of the drum, right here, that's the white part again, is a piece of stretched material. Originally, they used stretched animal skins for the drum heads, but now percussion companies have their own synthetic material. And as I've said before, the different type of material is going to change the way it sounds. There's a piece of metal under the drum called a snare that's stretched along the other side that rattles when it hits, and so it creates that sharp ringing sound when it's struck. So that's how the snare drum gets its name, because of the snares underneath. A bass drum is much, much, much bigger than a snare drum, and it doesn't have the metal snares. Typically hit with a big, looks like a marshmallow on a stick, so a big, fluffy, soft mallet, and has a big booming sound to it. And this is a concert bass drum. You can also have marching snare drums that you attach yourself with a harness and you would hit on either side. A triangle is made out of metal. Can be different sizes, so you can have a little itty-bitty triangle and a bigger triangle, and again, the smaller the triangle, higher pitched, bigger the triangle, lower pitched. Usually it's hit with a metal stick, and generally it has a nice long ringing sound to it. Think about like a dinner bell, that would be a triangle, they're hitting it back and forth. A tambourine has various different designs, such as a circle with the drum head that you can hit that, so you can hit it with your hand or a drumstick if you wanted to. A hollow circle like this, and a lot of times people would hit that against their hand or their leg even. A half moon shape that has a grip on it, so it's a good spot for someone to hold and shake. What these are little metal cymbals that when you shake it, they rattle together to make the sound. And then we have cymbals, which are large metal circles that are either hit together, so think a crash cymbal, they smack them together and they are going to ring, or they can be hit or struck with mallets, straight different sizes. So you see how this one's suspended on a hook. You could hit it just on its own, like at a drum set, they've got cymbals on there, and you could just hit it on your own. You could take two soft mallets and kind of roll it on there, and it would make this rumbling, growing effect on there. There's a lot of different ways that you can hit and make sounds with cymbals. That is it for our percussion lesson today. So I want you to go around your house and see what you can find to make percussion sounds. What's the lowest sound you can make? What's the highest sound you can make? Can you make the same? Can you find on a table? Could you take a pencil? What different sounds do the different parts of your table make? You could create your own song with that. You could create a song by just patting your legs and snapping. I'm not very loud at snapping. See what kind of creative things you can come up with by just using materials you have at your house, because anything can be a percussion instrument as long as it's hit or shaken.